Let's have some motherfucking fun. Yeah. Hey, yeah.
Welcome back to the Tomb everyone. This is the Pharaoh, aka Ali, and this is the final episode of season 1, and it's called A Black Tree Reunion. And I have some very important people here with me, and I'll have them go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. I'm Oladipo, good friends with Ali and the rest of the gang here. I met them after I pledged Phi Sig my sophomore year, and Ali became my big.
Hey everyone, this is Kevin. Like Depot said, we all met through Phi Sig. So I joined my junior year and Ali was my big. So that's how I know him personally. And then everyone else I met again through the frat, and we've been friends since then.
Hello everyone, I'm Efosa. Also met Ali through the Phi Sig. He's actually my grand little. And I'm looking forward to this podcast.
Hell yeah, we're about to have some fun. So let's start off with just saying congratulations to some people. First, Efosa, congratulations. You graduated, you made it.
Yes, sir.
Got his doctorate in pharmacy.
Thank you.
Right? Doctor in pharmacy?
Doctor of pharmacy, yeah.
Yeah, all right, about to start. So it's Dr. Isaac to you people now.
About to start slanging drugs.
hooking up with the crock pot. And then another congratulations to Kevin. Our boy just got engaged.
Yes, sir.
Yup, I did.
Congrats.
Thank you.
So run us through, how'd you come up with the idea of what you wanted to do for your engagement?
For the helicopter thing?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the whole thing.
So nonchalantly.
I wasn't there, nigga. I don't know.
Well, you mean the yacht?
Nah. I don't. I was just like trying to come up with some ideas and like think of like what to do. I like told my brother I was gonna do it, and we just kind of ran through some ideas. So he helped me brainstorm a little bit.
Because when I saw it,
Did you fly?
No, I didn't fly it.
Oh, okay.
I would have crashed that. No, but I guess
another ceremony, a different ceremony.
Yeah, it's just a website that does like tours of Boston. So it's like a 30-minute tour where they just fly up and go around Boston and bring you back.
That's beautiful.
Because I saw it, I was just like, did this nigga just watch 50 Shades of Grey? I was like, it's like, hell.
Wait, what happens in 50 Shades of Grey? I've never seen it.
I don't understand that reference.
So are we the only ones that have seen it?
Oh no, I haven't seen it. That's why
I'm the only one that's seen it. Wow. Ooh.
Christian Grey out here.
No, I was okay. I was forced to watch it, and it was trash. It was absolutely trash. But in one of the scenes, like when he's trying to when he starts dating her, he like takes her on a helicopter ride, and they have this whole musical thing. So okay, well, good to know you didn't jack it from 50 Shades of Grey.
Thank God.
Wait, so you guys have never seen it?
Nope. Hey,
Read
man,
the
the book
books?
is better than the movie. No, I've never read the books.
I mean, from people that have watched it, it's like they do say like the books are better. But I don't know. But so I kind of wanted to, just chop it up with you guys, get into some stuff. Kind of like I said before, just wanted to chop it up with you guys and kind of just like, just talk about shit that I've just been looking at and just been talking to other people about, get your perspective on things. So I think I asked you guys this earlier before we started, but like, so have some of you guys listened to like Kevin Samuels and things like that?
Yep, I've heard of the man.
Same.
No, Fosa, no.
No.
We can't see you shake your head, Efosa.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to see it. This is all audio. So for some of the, I guess Depot and Kevin that have listened to it, it's like kind of what are your thoughts about it? Like on the stuff that he says. I know that you said it's kind of like limited what you've listened to.
He seems like an interesting guy. Definitely a provocateur. I guess we should talk about what he talks about, right?
Yeah.
So he talks about relationships and what he perceives as the theme of relationships currently. Women targeting high value men, but then he asked the question of, well, if this is a high value man, are you even in his radar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like, what are you bringing to the table to like attract them?
Which, it's like, I feel like it's kind of I feel like it is a legitimate question to ask, because if there are women that are saying that I want a guy that makes 6 figures and more and all this stuff, and a lot of it is based off of like finances, it's like, okay, it's like, besides, let's be honest, besides the thing between your legs, like what are you bringing to the table?
I think one thing that I really do, and or from like the clips I've seen, one thing that I really enjoy is when he brings up like certain statistics. I don't know how true some of his statistics are, but like certain statistics, like the proportion of men who are at 6 figures and above, and how unrealistic of an ideal it is if all women are chasing, the 10% of people who are making 6 figures and above in the United States, then like, where do you think you're going to end up if, the 10% of women who are targeted by high value men end up getting them, and then you're just kind of chasing a guy who doesn't really see you as like his partner, or maybe even doesn't even value as like a human being and just kind of like a side piece. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know.
And like that's kind of the thing that he's like talked about, and I've listened to a decent amount of his videos, and one of the things that he says that women kind of get up in arms about is that it's like, okay, you got yourself a high value man, are you ready, like are you prepared to share him? And because I think, well, it's because we live in a Western civilization, is that monogamy is seen as like the default thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's wrong with like being in a polyamorous relationship, honestly?
I think there's nothing wrong with it as long as both parties agree. That's the one part of where his argument kind of gets funky, because like, are these high value men, quote unquote high value men, like talking to the partner and saying like, all right, you're not going to be the only one, or are they just kind of vibing, and then because they know that they're high value, they're just going, well, I'm gonna go do what I'm gonna do. You are gonna be here when I come back or not. So
So I guess, because I know some of you, well, Debo, you have a girlfriend, Kevin, you have a fiance. So can we just step into a world where that's not a thing?
Hypothetical. They've never existed landscape.
Yeah. Just Control Alt Delete, wipe the memory for a second. Would you guys ever try to be in like a polyamorous, and Efosa, you too, like, would you guys ever try to be in like a polyamorous like relationship?
And my granddad was polyamorous. And I remember as a kid in Nigeria, like in a playful manner, I was like always fantasizing about how many wives I'm gonna get and how many children we're gonna have, that kind of stuff. And currently, I mean, I want to say that polyamorous kind of like relationship, it's the only way I can see it feasible is if I have the commodity to, basically the financial access to like have it, like that kind of stuff. But for now, I'll just deal with monogamy. That's all I can say about that.
The way my bank account is set up, I ain't got the finances to do it.
Yeah.
The fact.
I mean,
Okay.
for me, I guess it's not something I've ever really like thought about. I don't know if that's just like, growing up in a world where it has been, one man, one woman, just seeing like that relationship, especially with like my parents still being together after like more than 20 years. That's sort of how I view it, but it's not something that like I feel like I've explored a ton
Mhm.
or even like thought about a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like Efosa, my grandfather, he had 3 or 4 wives. I don't know. I can't remember if there was a fourth or not, but I believe there was 4. So I've thought about it. For sure. I've got, other family members who have multiple partners, multiple wives in that manner. So similar to Efosa, like I've kind of thought about it to a certain extent, but like first of all, finances, right? You got to be in if you're going to do it, you got to be in a position where you can support, 2+ women for all the things that they need. And then 2, you have to be, you more than likely have to be prepared to be like emotionally ready for 2+ women, because they're not, for one, it's just not, at least in America, right? So if you're going to try that in America, it's just not as common. And there would have to be a lot of like culture breaking to start off with one partner, let alone with 2. So I know I wouldn't be opposed to pursuing a polyamorous relationship, but I think that comes with like a lot of conversations and a lot of like trust building before you can even hop into it, especially in this day and age.
Now, when you say trust building, like what do you mean? Like trusting that you're just not going to leave your current girlfriend for the other woman or something like that? Like, what do you mean when you say like, where does trust have to come into that?
I think like to a certain point but I think more of like, is this person, is my partner going to just be like digging down everyone he sees or everyone she sees, or are they going to be safe? You don't want somebody who's just like going around going crazy and then comes back to you and brings all the things that they've picked up along the way. That's not going to be healthy. And when you talk about like polyamory, there's so many things that go on into that. There's like open relationships where it's like you and your partner are cool, and then you both can go on dates with other people. Or there's like polyamorous relationships where it's like you have multiple girlfriends and like they all know each other and they're all cool. Or if someone's got multiple boyfriends and they all know each other and they're all cool, or a mix of both. So I think you have to establish what polyamory means to you in that moment. It can't just be like, oh well, we're open and I'll see you later, because at that point you're just single with someone you come back home to, which can be fine. Well, I'm saying like the most drastic version of that, not like a version where like you can come to your partner comfortably and like talk to them and be like, oh yeah, I'm going on a date with this girl I met, or I'm going on a date with this guy I met, we're planning on going here, and I'll be back like 12 or whatever
Well, at that point, I think it's more so of you're just having an open relationship. If it's like 2 people are together and the other people are just doing whatever the fuck they want, versus like the 2 people are going on a date with the third person, and it's just like, all right, we have this set up. Are you gonna come in?
Join?
Yeah, come in and
because there is that as well, where you already have a relationship and then other people join in on like the full relationship.
Yeah, because I think honestly, I think like that might be the best way to do it, because if you do it the other way, where it's just like, oh, I went out with this girl, I like her, and then she comes into it, and then my first girlfriend absolutely hates her, and now I'm like, now I just made a bigger headache for myself.
Yeah. But I think that would be part of like the dating process. You know what I mean? If someone were to go that route, as opposed to like we're going on a date together to pick up a partner, or like potentially pick up a partner and see how things go.
And it's interesting because both you and Efosa said that your grandfather had multiple wives. So did you, well, I'll just ask and then your answer is going to, did you see like any difference on how he treated his like multiple wives? Like, she's topple, and then there's layers to it.
My grandfather passed away before I was born, so I didn't like see like how he was operating, but at least from like the sibling part, I like all of my dad's siblings, like none of them look at each other as half siblings. They all look at each other as like my uncle, I would call him my uncle. I don't call him like my half uncle or anything like that. And his kids are my cousins, and same thing, like my dad views him, that is my brother. It's not my half brother. It's not my half sister. That's my family. So at least from that point, I could say it was fun. But there has to be some sort of like hierarchy, right? To a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for my grandparents, I think for my dad's side, my grandmom was somewhere in the middle. And I know that the first wife, I forget the term they use, I think first lady or first, I forget the term they use for the first wife, but the wives that come after that are like, have to like give respect to her. And she kind of like has some kind of say in like some decisions, that kind of stuff. And from my mom's side, I think my grandma was the last, I think. I remember because there were some shady things going on back then, but yeah, there is hierarchy when it comes to like a man with like more than one wives. And what else? Oh yeah, and also for polygamy, I don't know if it's the same for the rest of Nigeria, but for me, it was for my grandparents, it was the man having more than one wife and not the wife having more than one man. So the wife can marry can like have another man in the house, that kind of stuff. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the only place I've seen, I at least have seen, where like the wife has more than one male partner is like in America, but I obviously haven't done a lot of research into that.
Yeah.
And I know particularly in like my grandparents, part of the reason, you know, definitely not the only reason my grandfather had multiple wives, but part of the reason was that my father's mom wasn't, she wasn't able to like bear children for some time. And so, you know, in developing nations like that, you know, the goal is to have, you know, children, you know, it's a big family, so all the kids can partially work, one, and then two, like
take care of you when you get old.
Exactly. So so at first my grandmother wasn't able to have children for like a huge spread of time. So he had a second wife, who had his first, and then he was able to, my grandmother was eventually able to have other children as well, including my father, obviously.
And that was the thing that I kind of want to touch on. I'm glad that you brought it up, Efosa, is that it's like normally when we talk about polyamory, it's like, oh, it's a guy having multiple girlfriends. It's like, so I guess what are your guys' thoughts on like a woman having multiple boyfriends? It's like, do you think that can actually work? and the men still feel like respected in the relationship?
I feel like it depends on the type of like guy that's in that relationship, right? Like if a woman's dating a guy who has like a high competitive drive, like he's always gonna see that other guy as like competition. So from that point of view, like I don't know if it would eventually work out. There'd be maybe a lot of jealousy, a lot of like one-upmanship in terms of like trying to get the better of the other dude.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
it's like kind of in our nature to just be like men's nature to be inherently competitive with one another.
Yeah, definitely.
to a certain point, but there's always levels, right? So likely the type of woman who wants more than one partner or more than one male partner, she probably doesn't want a lot of men competing against one another unless she's like a master puppeteer. That just sounds like a toxic relationship you don't want to be in.
Psychotic. It's just psychotic.
Exactly. Yeah. But also like this is assuming that this is a woman who is strictly heterosexual. Like there could be a woman who wants more than one partner, and them being maybe she wants a male partner for certain reasons and a female partner for certain other reasons, right? Or for certain other compatibilities, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see that because what was it? I was actually listening to Patrice O'Neill. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's a comedian, but he also had a show called The Black Phillip Show, which everyone should go I think all men should go and listen to. And then he was also on another show called The Opie and Anthony Show, and he was talking about like a polyamorous like relationship with his girlfriend, and he brought up the point. It's just like with a woman having multiple guys, it's like in that situation, she's the leader of the relationship. And at that point, her being in that leadership role, she's going to start losing respect for the men that she has, because it's like, yes, some women want to be in like leadership roles and everything like that in terms of like business and things like that. But when we talk about relationships, it's like that's not necessarily like the case. So I guess I'll use that as a segue, is like to talk about like the structure of relationships. It's like, so do you guys believe that a relationship is 50-50?
In that relationship, it can never be 50-50. Because there's too many parties involved, right?
Yeah,
No,
it's
I'm
crowded.
sorry. I'm in a monogamous relationship. Do you think like a relationship is 50-50?
I think it could be. I don't think they always are or always need to be.
Yeah, I feel like if you sort of talk about what your needs are and what the other person's needs are, then it can definitely be split different ways.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always have to be 50-50, but like if you're the one who wants to, say, like as a man, provide for your family, and you know you want to be the breadwinner and be like, okay, like yeah, my wife can stay home, like take care of the kids and do all that, then it's not going to be, I mean, technically she's doing work that's unpaid, so it's not like it's like 100%, 0%, you know, there's always going to be that level of two couples doing something towards one relationship. So in order to build that 100%, I don't think it's ever, 100-0. There's always going to be someone bringing something to the table.
At least you'd hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you would hope at least, or if even if you don't hope, like you wouldn't want to be in that relationship anymore if the other person isn't bringing anything.
Yeah, at that point, why are you in the relationship?
Yeah, at that point you have to ask yourself like, oh, what's going on?
I'll tell you why some people sex. That's why some people stay in a relationship.
But even there's some
that's true, but even sorry to talk over you.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say there's some relationships where there's not, which I think like there's some relationships where someone's just in it because they're afraid to be alone, I would say, more than sex.
Yeah, that or they're afraid to like go out there and then all of a sudden they find that whatever they had before was good, and then what
Mhm.
they're finding now is, not the same or not on the same level.
It's trash. You're finding trash people out there.
Yeah.
But you did say something that was interesting because you said that it's like different, like it's not necessarily 50-50, but different. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people need to kind of understand is that within a relationship, there are certain within a relationship, and then if you get married in a marriage, there are certain roles that do need to be filled. And if you have two people competing for the same role, then like the other responsibilities of that different role is going to start falling by the wayside. Because I know that like growing up, it's like, so my dad worked and my mom stayed at home. And nowadays people will probably look at it as like, oh, like your father told her to stay in the, it's like, no, they sat down and had a conversation. And my dad was making more money than my mom at the time. And for a little bit of their marriage, she did work. But then once they started having kids, they understood together that it's like, okay, you're like, I'm making more money, so I'm going to be the one going out and bringing the money back. However, it's like the role that my mom played is that she managed all the money. Like if I went and asked my dad for money, like unless he had it on him, he'd be like, go talk to my accountant. So it's like different roles, but it's that play into each other. It's like one hand washes the other.
Yeah. But there's always a balance in that, right? Like my parents both worked. My parents are like typical Nigerian parents where they triple overtimes, like they're workaholics.
No one works harder than Nigerian.
Pretty much. So I think there's, well, obviously just different levels of that.
Mm-hmm. And I think to kind of contextualize it though, also is that like with your parents immigrated to the United States, correct?
Yeah.
So I think that's another lens that like also needs to be like looked at because um, I'm not assuming anything, but I'm saying it's like maybe when they immigrated here, it's like the type of money that they were making both needed to work.
Yeah, but at this point, they don't need to work.
Well,
they don't need to work as hard as they do work, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of things that go into that, and maybe just a habit of like culture, I would say, more than anything. But definitely both workaholics for sure. Like my dad is on vacation this week, and he typically works nights. So in order to work during vacation, he's working days, doubles during his vacation.
Damn, it kind of defeats the purpose of a vacation.
Yeah, that's what I said. And but he also works for the state, so he gets like his time off. If he doesn't take it, he loses it. So he's kind of like, well, might as well work during this week because he already took. I think he already took 2 vacations this year. I don't know how he finessed it, but he already took 2 vacations. One vacation that we talked about previously, where he went to Nigeria, and then the other vacation this week, obviously, where he's working overtime and also getting PTO, which is lit in my opinion. But
yeah, that's pretty good. Okay.
also, in terms of like needing to work, it's not like they needed visas because my parents have been citizens since at least like mid 2000s, like between 2006 ish, probably that area range. My mom was later than my dad. He had citizenship first, but around that time. So,
Okay. So I guess I'll ask the question, is that within your parents' like marriage, is like, would you could you say that there's a quote unquote like leader in the relationship?
My dad's definitely the leader for in terms of like financial decisions and like head of household kind of things.
Mhm.
But if we look at like if we're talking about like financially, my mom makes more than my dad. She's a she's a registered nurse, and she's been a registered nurse for a long time at the same place for a long time. So that's kind of where I look at it. Like there of course there are like financial reasons where you would want like, oh, my partner to stay home, but there's also like there's just a different balance, right? Everyone's just going to perceive things differently, in terms of how they want to operate their lives. So
Gotcha. Fosa, Kevin?
Um, for my parents, my dad is the head of the household. Um, my mom, uh, currently she works and still makes she makes more money than my dad, like people said, for his too. Um, and my dad is retired, so it's basically just managing the businesses he has in Nigeria.
Mhm.
But still, even though my mom makes more than my dad still remains the uh, like just the leader of the household.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So for me, um, I guess when I was younger, my parents were both in Guatemala. And then my dad actually came over to the United States first. He had an opportunity through his like restaurant group to come to the US and work for a restaurant here. And so that's sort of where a split happened where I didn't see him. I mean, I was super young, so I was like maybe like a year old at that point. And he came here, worked for like 2 years, and then was able to send money back, and then eventually bring us up to the US, which was, kind of like the dream goal of like everyone has growing up, like, oh, the US, country of freedom, all that stuff, where you can like make a better opportunity for yourself. So then when everyone was up here, we definitely relied on like a lot of family. And that's kind
Mhm.
of like why family is like super important to me, is because, my family, they all help each other out, like no matter what. Um, so I guess my dad would technically be head of the household. He's like working the most, working overtime whenever he can. He has that like work mentality where like, oh, like you can't stop. You gotta like keep working, and if you're not working, you gotta do something else. You gotta find a side hustle. You gotta, you know, bring at like more to the table, like as much as you can. And then in the beginning, my mom was at home, taking care of me and my brother. And then I guess that dynamic sort of changed a little bit where, you know, I got old enough, and then my parents had two more kids, so my younger brother and sister. And then they saw like the need to, in order to be able to provide for all four of us, my mom had to get a job. Um, and then that's where growing up, me and my older brother became kind of like caretakers for my younger siblings, which I guess when that happens, you take on more responsibility at a younger age. And that's something that definitely helped me like grow up. I was just basically taking care of this like 2 and 1 year old while my parents are both working, and just seeing the way that they were able to like manage bringing like, I guess, money and like care for the family home was kind of uh like a learning experience. Definitely, there were times when you're growing up, you're taking care of your younger siblings, and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, this isn't really my job.
Yeah.
But then like at the same time, it's like, you're a unit, like you're a family, like you have to support each other. And if you're not supporting each other, then why even like be growing up in this family in the first place? And I know that why they did that was to, give us all a better opportunity to kind of like progress and grow and like learn as individuals.
Real.
Message. So question, how old were you when you started like kind of when you and your older brother started taking care of your younger siblings?
I guess I was like maybe like 8 years old.
Damn,
So I was 8, my brother was 9. We'd like go to school, come back, and then my mom would be working night shifts. So like we'd kind of just take care of everything at home, and then my dad would be working pretty much day and night. Like there was times when we like wouldn't even see him because he had 2 jobs.
And like you said, what you said earlier is that your dad came here first. So I guess I'll ask you and Efosa, is like kind of what was your experience going through like the US like immigration like system? Because if you listen to a lot of these Republicans and right-wing Fox News people, it's like they'll say that our immigration system is broken. But it's like, what was your experience like going through it?
Real quick before they start, I will say from my perspective, the immigration system is broken, but for different reasons than why your typical like Fox News correspondent will say so, in my opinion.
So Depot, could you kind of expand upon what you said about how what Fox News says like is not actually what's wrong with the immigration system?
Well, one, they're looking at immigration through like just like a singular dimension, strictly for their talking points, because they want to, focus on people from the South. And people from the South, their issue with immigration is that they're, losing jobs, which is a whole nother argument on itself. But I think one thing that they miss is, one, the people who are, illegally immigrating to this country, like, it's not because they want to be criminals or anything. It's like it's your last option. And a lot of it is due to political instability that was caused by the US in the first place. Like we went we went and made drugs illegal here, and then we went to other countries and said, produce them for us. And we'll also, put a politician in power, and then we'll fund you guys, but we can only fund you so much. So then we'll leave. And once we leave, the people that we put in power are just going to get a coup happen upon them, and they're going to get murdered. And then we've started a cycle of violence, and we'll just look at you from afar and just be like, oh, well, shouldn't be coming to us. The land of the free and the home of the brave doesn't want you.
That was probably the best synopsis of the U.S. geopolitical interference. That's
pretty much what it is. And if you look at it through a singular dimension of like, oh, this is the problem and we gotta stop it, it's like, well, what started this quote unquote problem? And 2, these are human beings at the end of the day. And if we live in this country that's the American dream and the land of the free and the home of the brave, that's built by immigrants, whether or not they wanted to be here or not.
Well, immigrants. We're not gonna use.
You're right.
For enslaved people.
Immigrants and then
non-voluntary immigrants.
Yes. Immigrants and people who are stolen from their country. And you're just going to make this country based upon that, and then just pretend that, when people come here, it's like they have a better place to go. Like, let's be real. If there's some instability going on in your country, like wars or drugs or gangs and like literal violence, like you're going to go. You're not going to stay. You're going to go to the place that's been advertised across the entire globe as this is the beautiful place. And the same thing's happening with Europe too.
Can I say one thing? Is that it's very interesting that because these, and we'll call it what it is, these white people that will not look at people coming here from countries that have been destabilized by the United States are the same people that either the same people or the children of people who did the white flight to the suburbs as soon as you had one black neighbor. And it's just like, so it's like it's okay when you flee where you lived because of some pseudo shit that you thought was going on. But when people had legitimate reasons to leave where their entire family was, now it's, you want to take the moral high ground.
Facts. And then on top of that, like you got like white flight, people leaving their neighborhoods because black people move in, right? And then two, you've got like the original, immigrants to the US, they left because of like religious persecution. Like
some of them.
Yeah, quote unquote, well, yeah, some of them left because of religious persecution.
And then other ones, they use the colonies basically. Some of them left for religious reasons, and then the other ones is that the colonies were essentially supposed to be another Australia, where the UK, the Britain Empire, like were sending all their criminals. So the forefathers and shit like that, and it's like them niggas were criminals, or descendants of criminals.
Exactly, and it's like those are the people you trust, but then the people who are leaving actual violence and persecute and like legitimate, like just unwarranted and immoral like persecution, like you look at them and you're like, oh, they're at the wall, we got to finish this wall and close them off. It's like expand your mind just a little bit.
Yeah,
I feel like people need to sort of see past the Fox News talking points too.
Yeah,
because a lot of the instability in South and Latin America has been caused by the U.S., especially with like the drug war or even just other things. Like me, I'm from Guatemala. Before they were about to like create like sort of like a communist society where they were going to take the land back from the banana producers who essentially owned a bunch of the land, and then the government was like, "Hey, you guys own kind of way too much. We're going to take some of your land, repossess it, and give it to the poor people so they can farm and make food for themselves." And then those same huge banana conglomerates went to the US and were like, hey, something's going on here. We're going to lose a lot of land. You're going to lose a lot of business. And then the US was like, we're going to fund this rebel group that's in your country, and they're going to stop this communism from taking root and taking hold of your country. And we're going to have a coup against the government. So from there, all of a sudden, these banana like conglomerates, or they keep their land, new government gets installed, and then there's all this violence that comes from that. And then it's just years and years of civil war that comes from it. So they're causing the civil war, and then they're like, oh, we didn't do that. But it's like, you look back at history and you look back at these unclassified files that are all of a sudden like being exposed, tens and tens of years later, and you're like, hey, the CIA was here. They were doing something. They were funding guerrilla militants.
Yeah.
And now there's violence everywhere. There's all these gangs. There's literally no choice but for people to immigrate or try to immigrate to the US, where they can, maybe hope for a better life.
And it's not interesting, but it's essentially what the United States does is that it breaks someone's leg and accuses them of not being able to run.
It inserts themselves in like these international situations where it's like, even with what was going on in like Afghanistan right now, like I don't know if we want to get into it, but it's like,
oh, we can get into it.
We were there for like what, 20 years? Like the US was there.
Yep.
The whole reason was to eradicate Al-Qaeda, who was kind of partnered with the Taliban, and now who's taking control of the country again? The Taliban. Who did the US negotiate with? The Taliban.
And it's very interesting because I was listening to some people talk about like kind of progressive people, but they were talking about how because of the recent bombings is that people are instantly saying like it's the Taliban, But what people need to understand is like, I think they're called ISIS-K, which is the ISIS faction that's in Afghanistan. And it's like, they're the ones that actually carried out these bombings. But if you look at news outlets, it's like they'll say that, oh, it was the Taliban. It's like, but that doesn't make sense, because essentially Joe Biden, what he did is that he said to the Taliban, it's like, we're going to leave and here's a country. Why then would they go ahead and start bombing American soldiers, which would instantly just re-escalate the situation to bring them back in and continue it for who knows how long?
Yeah. So I don't know if I've heard U.S. media say it was the Taliban that did those bombings. I think all I've heard was that it was like ISIS-K, which is like a subset of ISIS, which is technically.
Well, I also listen to right-wing news, so I listen to both wings. Just
got it. So I'm not listening to that. So
yeah,
I guess it's like a different message that's being spread throughout the different news outlets. But ISIS-K is technically sworn enemy of the Taliban. Like the Islamic State does not believe in the same stuff that the Taliban does.
Yes.
But you do at the same time hear facts as like, oh, they got through a Taliban checkpoint where the Taliban a part of this bombing. So I guess I have heard that.
One thing I just want to add real quick, just to go kind of piggyback on what you said previously about the coup in Guatemala, kind of connected to, the situation in the Middle East, is like, one, it wasn't just like any banana conglomerate, it was Chiquita bananas. Like,
yeah, the bananas
like,
that you eat every day.
The bananas we eat like all the time, every day. They've branded across the country. We see them all the time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was the company that inserted itself into geopolitics and inserted themselves in the Guatemalan government with the help of the CIA to do these things. And this is all public record.
Yeah.
And it's out. And like in a similar fashion, like the US has gone over into Afghanistan and certain Middle Eastern countries to, quote unquote, protect poppy field seeds, which, is the ingredients for heroin and all of the opiate-based, exactly, all the pharmaceutical drugs that, kids in Massachusetts are now dying from because of the opioid epidemic.
Question, conspiracy theory.
Primarily white kids. And real quick before your conspiracy theory,
okay,
the only ironically, racism is the greatest part of the opioid epidemic, because doctors didn't prescribe opioids to Black people because they thought we would abuse them, and then they prescribed them to white people and they abused them. And now there's no
Lil Billy's out there raiding his mom's prescription cabinet. But conspiracy theory, just hear me
hypothetical.
Hear me out. Do you think part of the reason why they are pulling out is because there really isn't a need for opioids anymore because of how hard they're trying to fight the opioid epidemic?
That's debatable. I don't know what the like. Well, I guess.
I mean, public sentiment has been that like, oh, we need to get out of there for some time now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like both Democrats and Republicans agree on that.
And the wild thing is that the plan that Biden is following, that was set up by Trump. So if he won a second term, this same shit would have happened.
Exactly. Same shit.
Yeah, definitely.
But I find it, so it's interesting that, so we did talk about like South and Central America, and the other thing that I kind of wanted to touch upon as well is just like almost across the world, the United States have destabilized, well, not just the United States, but just Western civilization. Yes.
I got one thing to add to in a similar situation to the Chiquita bananas. I believe it was the Dole Pineapple Company that did the same thing with Hawaii, and that's why Hawaii is a state.
Yep.
So just to remind the U.S. of
like they
a lot of fruits have baggage.
Fruit's got the money.
It actually, is gonna be like, oh, avocados from Mexico.
Avocado gang.
Except that's actually a thing now.
Yeah, I was about to say.
The cartels are now in the avocado business.
Yeah, because it makes money.
So all those people out there eating your avocado toast, you might as well just do cocaine because they're coming from the same person. I'm kidding. I don't support cocaine. Anyways,
Are we gonna cut all this laughter out?
There's a public service announcement.
it's staying in.
What's the timestamp?
Nah, it's staying in. It's staying in. But yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you guys was, well, I said it to you guys earlier, like the scale. We're going back to, so people know we're going back to dating and relationships and things like that, men and women interactions, whatever. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was like the scale that I use. So the scale that I use is a 0 through 30 scale, because most guys, or even some women, like they use 0 through 10. And the thing is that, yeah, like it's kind of good, but when you really think about it, is that if you're trying to say someone's average, like, oh, they're like a 5 or a 6, but a 6 is still way too close to a 10. Because there's things that separate a 6 from a 10.
Is it though?
It's 6 is, I mean, if you round it, you round up to like.
I mean, if you're rounded to the 10s digit, I guess.
But a 6.
I don't know. I'm thinking of it in terms of like video game scale. Like video games, you get a 6 out of 10. I'm not playing that shit.
Yeah,
that's trash.
But think about it. If you so
like a person,
that same scale as a woman, 6 out of 10. I ain't fucking with that.
I don't know.
Oh, now
it's hard to apply to a person, I guess.
Yeah,
it's easy to apply to someone's looks. We're not talking about the whole entirety of the person. We're talking about just looks. So people can listening to this was like, I'm a good person. You probably are. Great. Still a 6.
Well, in that case, there'd be a 18 out of 30.
No, because here's the beauty of the scale. So
the beauty of the scale.
0 to 10. Those are just ugly women. 11 to 20, those are fine. Those are fine, fine/cute women. 21 to 30, those are beautiful women. So
Alice Ward, gorgeous,
whatever you just top tier. You know what I mean.
So wait, before you continue, who's a 30? Who in the world is a 30?
Who's a 30? See, they're like,
I'd say
they're like chupacabras. You like, very few people have seen them, but I believe that they're real.
And then, so Kevin just said that Rihanna, he thinks Rihanna's a 30. I too agree. I think Rihanna would be a 30.
She's a 29.
Rihanna's not just what?
I'd say she's 29.
All right, that's your scale, anyways. So
but
Rihanna's a
30. Just because of the forehead. She has a big ass.
Nah. We love a pretty girl with a big forehead. Stop that. And then second, she's not just a 30, she's like an international 30. Because she's literally like a piece of every continent. In the least like fetishy way possible. She's like what's the word? Like phenotypically, she has features from literally every continent because genetically she's from basically every continent.
Okay, but do you see how we're arguing over 1 point, but we still understand that she's gorgeous?
Yeah.
Now on the 10-point scale, you might argue over 1 point from from your boys saying she's average from she's above average.
I see what you're saying. So you'd be like, nah, she's a 9, and someone's like, bro, she's definitely 8 her forehead.
Yeah, see, you see the beauty of the scale, but also the intrinsic beauty of the scale is this: is that it as dudes is that we will come correct to a woman if we have a larger scale, so that we can be like, all right, it's like if you view yourself as a 6 and you're approaching an 8, you're gonna say some really self-sabotaging shit just because you think that she's out of your league. With the scale, you could be like, you know what? It's like, honestly, she might be a 17 or 18. So she is a very pretty, cute girl. So you're gonna come with the right type of confidence. So it's for us, but it's also for women, because I can, just from talking to different women, is that like the type of shit guys say, where it's like, you know, that wasn't going to work, but because of the fact that they've just like pretty much decided they're going to self-sabotage themselves, it's like, it's dumb. That's why I have that scale.
I definitely like the scale. Now that you've described it.
Yeah. I feel like its intricacies are better than a 0 to 10, where you're rating them just based on a single digit.
Because you like, unless someone has like some really just unattractive features, you're never gonna really give someone like a 2 or a 3.
That's true.
It's like, because
if you do, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
So it gives you a little bit more leeway to be like, it's like, she's cute for an ugly girl.
Yeah, she's a 6, and then a 6 is, you know, or I guess, you know, you call her, you say, oh, this is a 9 or it's an 8.
There you go, and you can have the right amount of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my scale. I don't know.
What do you think a woman's scale version of that is?
Towards a man?
Towards a guy?
Towards a guy?
It's probably like,
I don't know. Ollie, we need another guest. Bring him in.
Where are the women?
Let me just call my sister, get her on the phone real quick. No, but the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I think I touched upon it a little bit earlier, well, before this podcast started, was the whole height and weight thing, and how in the dating game, especially, like I've seen it a lot on Tinder and Bumble, is that like women will say, oh, if you're under 6 feet, like don't even talk to me. It's like, don't even swipe right. It's like, but if the roles were reversed and I used, if I used weight, if I said, if you're over $180, it's like, just keep on walking, I would be looked at as some type of pig, a misogynist, whatever they want to, whatever new words these liberals are coming up with. But I can't gain inches. You can lose pounds. It's like, so why is it that something that is genetically determined, you feel the right to discriminate against? Like the things like, if you're black, keep swiping. It's like, I can't change my genetics. It's like, so, and let's be honest, not every woman deserves a dude that's over 6 feet. If you're 5'2", a nigga that's 5'11" is still taller than you and can protect you. So it doesn't really make sense. Like there was this person I followed on Instagram. I just stopped unfollowing her because I got tired of her just complaining that she couldn't find a dude, even though I would say she was a 23, gorgeous, complaining that she can't find a dude. And one of the criteria is like, you need to be at least 6 feet or above, because I'm what is it? I'm 5'9", and where I wear heels, like I'm 6 feet. No one told you to wear stilts. Like, there are ways to get around that. If I'm 5'10" and you're 5'9", that's fine. But it's just, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
I mean, I feel like everyone's entitled to have their sort of standard of attraction, like what you find attractive in a certain person versus what you find unattractive.
Mhm.
If you find someone who's taller than you by a certain amount of inches more attractive than someone who's like only an inch taller than you, then by all means, like, you're allowed to have that opinion. I'm not going to say over here that like, oh, any woman that's looking for a guy over 6 feet is trash and like doesn't know what she's really looking for,
I'll say.
because maybe she does know what she's looking for. She wants someone who's taller than her. But at the same time, it's okay for guys to have a certain criteria of like, oh, I don't want someone who's overweight in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're judging one person for having a height criteria, you can't judge another person for having a weight criteria.
Yeah, I would agree on that. I think if I had to argue, like, which one is like more, for lack of a better words, like more acceptable to me, I would say like I get the height thing more than the weight thing, because for one, like, your weight can change, and also like weight is subjective. Like, you could be like I am a person, if I go to the doctor, I'm obese. I'm, by BMI metrics, I'm an obese person. But by my weight and everything, I'm a big person, right? If a woman looks at me and goes, "Oh, I've got this weight criteria. You can't be over this many pounds," like, I'm not gonna pass. And if she doesn't want me, doesn't want me. I get it, whatever. But like, but I could also, work towards getting my weight down. Obviously, there's limits to that, but you can change your weight. And then height is is more of an intrinsic value, I think, right? Because you can't, aside from some crazy scientific procedure, you can't really change your height aside from wearing thicker insoles or heels. So I think I would say that height would be more of an acceptable, reason for not wanting someone than weight for me, if I had to choose. But also, kind of on the heels thing, I think part of the reason why we view the heels thing is like, oh, like, she just wants to be taller. Whereas I think the point of heels is more of, they want their like posture and like stance to look more attractive. You know what I mean? Like, heels basically show off your legs. They force your calves to look a little bit more toned. If
you're 5'10", you already
They
have long
accentuate
legs.
the booty.
But the it's not getting taller. That's the point. Like, it's not about getting taller and having your legs be longer. It's about like making your appearance look more sexually attractive, or not even sexually attractive, but just more attractive to yourself and possibly others.
Sort of more of like the socially attractive aspect of it. It's
Exactly.
like a guy sees the girls in heels versus maybe someone that's just wearing flats. Like, culturally, you see a girl in heels and you're like, oh, like she's rocking it,
Mm-hmm.
versus someone who maybe just like is wearing flats. It's like, it's not going to accentuate the same features that someone that is wearing heels would.
Yeah, and I understand, and I can get behind that. Wearing heels is like, and I said that as a joke.
You could say it's sexy, a girl
Yeah,
who's
and
wearing
I
heels.
said that
It's
as
like, it's sexually attractive.
and I said that as a joke, like wearing heels, like, yeah, like I understand why. What I was getting at is that, so two things. One is that it is acceptable societally for women to be discriminatory towards men.
I mean,
But
is it?
yeah, I mean, because like I laid out, if I had a weight requirement, if I said I didn't want a woman that is more than 180 pounds, all the body positivity people and everything would be coming after me. But how, like, do short men have like a community where they can come after women? It's just like, oh, like you don't like me because you're being heightish or something like that. That doesn't exist for men. We just kind of look at it, accept it. It's like, shit, I can't change that. Brush it off and just find other things to make us attractive to the opposite sex. But it's an unequal type of discriminatory like behavior, and that's all that I was bringing attention to. It's like, because if I have a preference for something that can change, that means that your sex appeal to me is malleable. But if your preference towards me is something that is innate and determined by my genetics, there is no wiggle room at all. So I could be the best guy for you, but just because my dad might be short, now you're just going to be lonely till you're 45.
I feel like if someone's writing someone off just because of their height, they might just be a shallow person, like within themselves.
Yeah, you'll be surprised about how many women actually just look over a short dude.
I mean, that could be true, but at the same time, is it like, do you want to be dating someone that would look over someone just because of their height? Same thing could be said about a woman. Do they want to look over someone just because they think of like the guy just thinks of like their weight versus other things that they could be bringing to the table?
I mean, but even with the weight, there is another layer to it. It's like, because, and people are not going to be happy with this one, but especially with the Black community, it's like, we do have a problem with weight. Mm-hmm. It's like and I understand with the body positivity and everything like that, is that you should, like, people should not be shamed for the body that they have. However, is that to a certain extent, to what extent are we starting to normalize being unhealthy? Because if you're obese, like, you're at a higher risk for all different types of diseases that will kill you. So you're telling me that I can't say anything about your weight to not hurt your feelings. I just need to accept you passively dying in front of me. So I'd rather not hurt your feelings, just accept you to die at some point prematurely.
That's a good point. I think
because being short won't kill you unless, no, I don't think being short will kill you.
Unless you like can't grab something. Trying to break the glass, you can't reach for it. Trying to grab the fire alarm, you're just like, you only have a step, like a step left. Where's my step stool?
Darn it.
A running start to pull it, you just knock yourself out in a fire.
Yeah, unless you're in like a Kevin Hart movie, like being short won't kill you. But I guess that's under the assumption that being obese would kill you. Like if you're someone who is
you ever watch Soul Food?
Well, that's a whole different thing. I'm saying if you're someone who's overweight, but you do all the things, like you're active all the time and you're still overweight, like, years upon end, and your body just doesn't, metabolize fast enough to like remove all the fat, like that's a different story. Obviously you could go through different things to change that, like surgeries and whatnot, but then that comes into a whole nother conversation of like,
yeah,
is it healthy for you to do the surgery, or should you just, continue to just be active and just know that being active is going to keep you healthy, even though your appearance doesn't reflect what you think it should or what you want it to. And that's a whole nother argument upon itself. But
and I completely understand that there are there are situations where there are medical conditions in which people gain weight. I 100% understand that. But I'm not talking about those people, because anytime when you have a conversation like this, people will bring up this like, well, there are people that have this and that causes them to gain weight. It's like, I understand that. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people that if your only sickness is cake, then you're the people that I'm talking about. And don't get me wrong, I understand how hard it is to lose weight. Shit, I'm trying to do it right now. I'm 5'10" and 250. I'm fat as a motherfucker. So I'm gonna start chopping my toes off in a little bit. So I understand how I understand how hard it is to lose weight, but I'm on the road to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's part of it is to look better for women, but also part of it is also for my own health.
Yeah.
Because if you sneeze too hard and you feel a pain go down your left, like your left arm, then you need to start making some changes.
I guess in terms of like the whole body positivity thing, it's like you don't want to make anyone feel ashamed for the body that they do have. You know, I feel like that's one of like the aspects that they're going for, versus, oh, if you want to lose weight, you want to lose weight, that's healthy for you, then like you keep doing what you're doing. But if you are someone who is obese, you don't want to all of a sudden be like, hey, you're obese, like you're fat as shit. Mm-hmm. This is unacceptable. You need to start going to the gym. You need to start like running. You need to start doing every single thing that you can in order to conform to this idealistic view of what society has in terms of body weight.
Well, yeah.
There's a thing about being healthy versus a thing about like where your body's at. Like you could be overweight and sort of trying to be healthy at the same time, right? Like there's always a subset of people who are in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like there are overweight people who are healthy. Like look at the NFL.
There's guys who will run like a 4.7.
People that are active. That's the difference. People think that because you're active that you're necessarily healthy. You can be overweight like people in the NFL and they're active. But then if you really take a deep dive into the shit that's going on in their body, I will bet, my dollar to your dime, is that the name? Yeah, that's the phrase. Like, I will bet that there are definitely like risk indicators for those people that are overweight that we look at as, top tier athletes.
Such as?
So, and Kevin, you said something that was just like, you just can't tell someone that they're obese.
Not that you can't tell someone, but like...
Well, not a random person. You shouldn't be walking up to people in the street and be like, hey, you fat motherfucker. No, but I'm saying it's like people around should be able to be like, hey, you are at a weight that is not healthy for you. And the reason why I asked is that like if someone had anything else, any type of thing that would put them at risk of having an adverse health outcome, it is acceptable for us to say something to them about it. If someone's drinking too much, you will say to them, it's like, listen, if you keep going down this path, you're going to end up killing yourself. If someone has diabetes and they're not taking care of it, you're societally wise, you're allowed to say something to them. But if someone is overweight for some reason, that you're not allowed to say anything to them. You have to promote them, lift them up, and just like. And with the body positivity thing, I agree with it to an extent, but I feel like the pendulum has swung so far the other way that it's now that it's so much body positivity that it's like nobody can tell me anything.
I mean, you go to a doctor and they're going to tell you the truth, right?
Mhm.
Like you go to doctor, you get a blood test, they're going to tell you, hey, your LDL levels are this, your HDL levels are this, like
Mhm.
you're at risk of dying prematurely. And
Yeah,
I
you
feel
you're
like in the
risking
medical field, it's like that is where it is acceptable to tell someone that, like, hey, you're overweight right now and you need to try to do something about this.
But with this healthcare system, most of the times people don't access it until something's wrong.
very true.
So
Yeah,
my thing
that's
is
true.
more so prevention. It's just like, I don't want you to be living with something like this for so long that like you end up having a stroke or a heart attack. And then the doctor, not like, that's the first time you're seeing a doctor and they're telling you, oh, you're overweight, while the people around you that claim to love you just watch everything happen.
So let me ask you, where's the line in shaming someone? Like, where does that come in? Like, hey, I'm shaming you right now because you're fat. You need to lose weight, versus telling someone out of, love for them that, like, hey, like, I've noticed recently that, you've gained maybe like 20-30 pounds. I am, like I feel like personally it's like, oh, like, where do you tell them, like, hey, I'm concerned for you?
There you go. You drew the line right there. It's the same thing. Like if someone's an alcoholic, it's like like there's a line that we know is like where your family members will say to you is that, oh, like I've noticed that you haven't been going out. I walk into your house, I see 40s laying around everywhere. It's like, what's going on? Like I think you really might be drinking too much. Versus you saying to the person, you fucking drunk. Like, what are you doing? That's where the line is that people understand when you're coming from a caring place and when you're coming from a very uh, malice place.
Okay. So then I think like body positivity is trying to prevent that shaming in the first place, versus
It swung so far the other way that it's to the point where it's, even if someone tells you I'm concerned, it's, you can't tell me anything. I love my body. Like, who are you to tell me that I need to, that you're concerned about this? Like, I'm someone that wants to still travel this earth with you.
Okay.
Because I think that's the thing, is that I've seen it happen with a lot of movements, is that when there's a movement, it's to correct something that has been wronged. But people within that movement need to also have the foresight to understand it's like, there is a stopping point. But when they gain so much momentum, is that the pendulum swings so far the other way that it ends up being detrimental to the people that the movement was originally started to help.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. I could see where it becomes, we're accepting so much in terms of body positivity, where it's like, oh, I'm accepting that you're so and so obese that it's gotten to the point where, we might not see you in 10 years.
Yeah. Or the next time I see you, you might have a peg leg because they had to chop off your foot. It's like I
guess there's a fine line,
Yeah, I think
and it's hard to decide.
I think it's a pretty fat line, no pun intended, but like it's a pretty big line, because people know when you're being hurtful and when you're trying to be helpful. And it's just, with this movement, is that they've taken any type of criticism, any type of someone mentioning your weight as something negative, that the helpful and hurtful people are now lumped into the same, and now they're just being dismissed.
So when you say, oh, my limits, hey, if you're over $180, I'm not going to consider dating you attractive. Is that the same line, or is it not?
Sexual preference. I'm saying is that they're like, if you're looking, because here's the thing, is that if you're looking for a sexual experience, then like, it's kind of fucked up. But if you're looking for a relationship, it's like, then you have to also understand that, like, this is the person that I'm going to be spending however long with. It's like, and part of that is like, I do have to take into account their weight. If I'm a person who likes to go on hikes or stuff like that, it's like someone who might be a $180 or over, hikes might not be in their repertoire. So it's things like that. It's like the same thing as it's like, and I'm not saying that fatness is a disability, but I'm saying it's like if you were to date a woman that was blind, if you're looking for a relationship, then you have to take into account, and it's like how, like, what are the things that I'm going to have to adjust to with dating someone who is blind?
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of things that go into relationships when you're looking for a partner that it's like you have to take into account. It's like, okay, these are the things that I might have to adjust to or just tolerate.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that, everyone, has been the first part of a Black Tree Reunion. Part 2 will be coming out next week. Stay tuned.